Hi everyone, it's Ashley from Tea Garden Paper Crafts and welcome back to Junk Journal Journey 2025. I know it's been about 2 months since I made my last video. For those that don't know, I am an accountant as my day job, so March and April are very, very busy months for me. So I had anticipated having more time outside of work than I did to be able to do this. So to make up for it, I had 2 printables in my store this week, one for the cover that we're going to make today and the second for the signatures. So you'll have a little bit of homework for next week. So this is what our cover is going to look like once it is assembled. I am quite proud of how this came out. So it's got a pretty sturdy cover. As long as you print this on good cardstock, you've got a pretty sturdy cover, but you could put additional material in here if you wanted to make sure that it was even sturdier. So let's get assembling. So I have my pieces already printed and cut, and I have inked. So you're going to want to print 2 of the cover pieces and 2 of the inside page pieces, and then 1 of each of the spine pieces. You do not need to double print. I double printed initially and then realized I don't need to do that. So don't waste your ink. Don't double print. If you ink the edges, you're going to want to ink these 3 edges for the cover. You do not need to ink this cover part where the little spine is showing, because that's to indicate where we glue it, which direction. For the inside ones, you're going to want to glue, or if you ink, you're going to want to ink all of the corner, all 4 sides. And then for our spines. So our spines on the paper are like this. The 2 white lines are where you score, and then where I inked. For the outside spine, you're going to fold it this way so that these are this direction, and then ink your sides. And then for the inside one, you're going to fold it inward on those white lines, score it, and then fold it inward. Okay? So that they'll fit together like this. You may need to do a bit of trimming once everything's together, but we're going to start with gluing things together. So we're going to start with our spine. So what I like to do is I use glue stick and Fabri-Tac because I want to make sure I have really good coverage. So for this one, you're going to take your outer spine, and we're going to glue up to that fold just in the center. So I'm using my glue stick first. Just to make sure we've got good coverage all the way to our edges. Put my cap on, and then I'm going to come in with my Fabri-Tac. I'm down to the end of this bottle. My next bottle is waiting to open. And we're going to just put our Fabri-Tac along the very edges here. Okay, and then we are going to take our inside spine, and we're going to fold those pieces in. And we are going to do our best to get it centered. So I like to kind of flip it around, make sure that I'm lined up on this edge, make sure I'm lined up on this edge, and make sure that it can fold in okay. I need to scoot it a little bit this way. Make sure that I can fold it. Okay. And then we are going to press it down really, really well. We want to make sure that that's totally adhered. So that's our 2 layers for our spine. If you have a little extra paper up here, you can snip it off and re-ink, or you can just ink, whichever you prefer. So then, it doesn't really matter which direction this faces. If you have a preference, that's fine, because I do know that like the bottom here is a little more cut off than the top. So if you like one way one looks better than the other, then that's fine. But what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that everything folds here nicely. I didn't do a very good job gluing on this end, so we're going to, because that's not quite along my edge that I want it to be, I'm just going to go in and refold that. So we're going to come in here and I'm just going to push down along that line to make sure that my spine is where I want it to be. Perfect. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to glue in our covers. And how we're going to do that, so make sure you pick which way you want up. And we're going to glue this in here. So we're only going to put glue on just the bottom side. So keep that center one folded in because we just want glue on the outside here. Make sure you get your corners really well. And again, I'm going to go in with my Fabri-Tac and I'm going to glue just along the edges here with my Fabri-Tac. Now, if you wanted to use exclusively Fabri-Tac, you could. I just tried to save it for, you know, because it is more expensive, I try to save it for the bigger parts. So now we're going to take it, make sure that this side here where the spine edge is tucked up against the spine. And we're going to line it up the best that we can. Make sure that it's kind of aligned here. Push it in as close as we can to the edge. And then we have that. Okay, so once that is in, we are going to glue this piece down. Okay, so we're going to glue really well. Now this part, you do not need to use your expensive Fabri-Tac glue on because we're going to glue over this. Okay? And then make sure that you bend still. And that is the first side of the cover done. So now we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to make sure that our spine is folded properly. Going to glue all the way to the edges. Use our Fabri-Tac. And then again, take the edge that has the spine and line it up as best you can. Yep, that looks good. And then we're going to, again, come in with our glue stick or our inexpensive glue. Again, you could do this with Fabri-Tac, but this one is going to get covered up, so I don't need it to be super. And then make sure that we still fold, and we do. All right, so next, what we're going to do is we're going to come in with our two edge pieces. Now, the pattern here does kind of have a direction. So if you care about that, make sure that you're paying attention to your direction. I don't care. The only thing I'm going to do is make sure that my two end pieces are facing the same direction. But as far as where the spine's going to be, you're not going to really notice it. So if it ends up going a different direction like mine is, that's fine. But if that bothers you, make sure you're kind of cognizant of that. But I don't care. So I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to take my first inside cover and do my glue all the way. Use my glue stick and apply a good coat of glue stick. Get it on my table. Whoops. This would be a perfect chance to use your glue book so that you're not gluing to your table like I am. I forgot to grab my glue book before doing this. Okay, and then again, we're going to glue all of the edges with our Fabri-Tac. We want the edges to stick down really, really well because they are going to take, this is the cover of our journal, so they are going to take a little bit more of a beating than some of our other parts of our journal might. Okay, so once I have that glued and ready to go, I'm going to very carefully line it up. And I'm going to try and line it up with my inked edge here. And we're going to have a little bit of overhang, but that's okay because we can cut that off. Make sure I get all the glue off my table here. So for this one, I've got some overhang, which is fine. Probably because I kind of had to adjust this side down a little bit. So the important thing is that you want to make sure that you're covered all the way up to this edge. So the outside edge is where you want to be covered, because the inside, we have this part of the spine here. This is all going to give you a little bit of playroom. So if your piece doesn't feel like it's going to fit quite perfectly, have it not fit perfectly along these edges, as long as the inside is covered. So let's go ahead and trim this off. Now you could wait until the glue's dry and then go in and trim it off, but because I'm filming, I want to make sure that I show you guys what the completed piece looks like after assembly. So that's why my scissors are sticking a little bit, because I'm trying to cut while the glue is still a little wet. And then I'm also going to trim this edge here. And you may have to do a little bit of inking. If you ink, you might need to do a little bit of inking to get that rid of that little white edge that's now going to show. But if you don't ink, that's fine. But I like inking because it hides a lot of mistakes. Okay. And do not judge me on my cutting skills. My scissors are getting dull. I need to resharpen them again. I've just been lazy. I'm sorry, I've been a lazy crafter. There we go. That's better. And then we'll be able to hide that with inking. So let's get all that off my desk. And there is the first part of our cover. So now we're going to do the same thing on this side. So take my cover piece. And while I'm gluing, I want to say thank you to everyone who's been on this journey with me, who has been following and who waited patiently while I got bulldozed by work for the last few months. I appreciate you very much. We have some very exciting things coming up. If you follow me on any of my social media accounts, you will know or might have noticed that I am participating in Junetober, which is hosted by The Paper Bee and Petals and Parchment. I am releasing 2 designs, and I will be releasing 3 videos during Junetober. There are some amazing creative forces at work for Junetober this year, and I cannot wait for you guys to see what's happening. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. Okay. Again, we're going to line it up the best that we can. looks pretty good. And then we'll just do a trim on this edge and our cover will be done. Now, if you already printed out the printables for this week, but you haven't cut them out yet, or you haven't like looked at them yet, there are 2 fussy cuts that I included. One that is kind of like a little gilded leaf flourish, and another one that is a label that matches the rest of the labels in the set from this so far that says Junk Journal Journey. So if you wanted to, you could put those on the spine, you could put those on your cover, you could put them inside. I have a really special plan for the cover that we're not going to do next week, but the week after. So homework for this week and next week. We have our cover. I already have given you the printables for the signatures. Get your signature pieces printed and cut out and ready to go. And start assembling other things for your book, for your signature pages. You could use book pages, lined notebook paper, graph paper, tea-dyed paper, coffee-dyed paper, anything that you think that you would like to include in your signatures. So next week I will show you how to sew in the signatures to our journal. And then the week after that, we are going to make a topper for this. So this journal cover design, not the design itself, I created the design, but the style of this is actually inspired by Ink and Page. The journal that she did for her Christmas journals was done in this style, and I was really inspired by her for this cover style, for that creation. And then when we do our journal toppers, those are going to be flippy floppy toppers, which were inspired by Sophie at Sophie's Crafty Corner. So I will link to their channels in the description below so you can check them out, because they both have tons of stuff. I'm inspired by them constantly. And next week we will assemble the signatures into our journal, and we will, the week after, make toppers for our journals, and then we can start decorating. So the reason that I am not showing you how to sew the signatures in this week is because most of you are not going to have 2 of these. You're going to have one that you just assembled, and we want to let the glue dry before we start trying to mess with it. So that's why we're only assembling this week. So next week, we will work on the signatures, and I can't wait to work on them with you guys. So I'll see you in my next video. Bye now.